everyone, welcome to The Last Word. I'm Gargi Rawat. In a major judgment, the Supreme Court today held that a minimum of one-third posts in the Supreme Court Bar Association will be reserved for women going forward. The court mandated that this reservation be implemented in the upcoming elections, which is taking place soon enough, just on the 16th of May. So this order coming just ahead of the Bar Association elections. The court also directed that the post of the treasurer, a very prestigious post, be reserved for a female candidate. Now this means that 3 of the 9 positions in the association's junior executive committee and 2 out of 6 positions in the senior executive committee will now be reserved for women. So what does this now mean going forward for women in the legal profession, and will we see this sort of quota soon in other bar associations in the country? What does it mean for the judiciary? Today it's the Bar Association. Could we soon see women's quota in the judiciary as well? That's just a question there. Is this the way to go to ensure adequate representation of women? Before we go across to our panelists, let's just listen into what Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, had said to NDTV in an interview on women's participation in the legal profession.
Recently, we designated 12 women as senior advocates in the month of February 2024 in the Supreme Court. From independence through to 2024, we had about 13 women who had been designated as senior counsel. Young women lawyers are choosing the legal profession, both in terms of jobs in law firms and in the mainstream, which is court practice. And I do believe that's a sign of a social transformation which is taking place in Indian society, of which we should be very legitimately proud, and we must do everything that we can to ensure that, having joined the workforce, we create safe, secure and dignified conditions of work for women. In the registry of the Supreme Court itself, we have registrars who are very senior district judges who assist me and the Chief Justice of India in the work which we do. And I've made an effort to have women from different parts of the country come and work in the Supreme Court.
All right, so that is what the Chief Justice of India had said on the issue of women's representation in the legal practice. Joining us for more to talk about this step taken by the Supreme Court, we're joined by Khushbu Jain, advocate Supreme Court, and Malvika Rajkotia, also advocate at the Supreme Court. Malvika Rajkotia, first, your reaction to this order by the Supreme Court.
It's absolutely terrific. We're all delighted by it and by this very unusual and progressive and enabling move by the bench. But the cynical part of me, or can't help but notice that it needed the bench to do this. And within the bar, however, let's see how the bar reacts. But the truth is that since independence till now, in no, apart from executive body, certain elections have been won by women, but no significant post has been won by a woman, even though women in the past have stood for elections. So this is indeed very, very good. But it again reflects so far the male centricity even in 2023.
So are you saying that you're sorry that it needed a Supreme Court intervention for this?
Yes, of course. And that's true of Parliament. It's true of Parliament as well. We are still making 33% reservations and so on. So that male-centric demographics remains. But yes, the Supreme Court bench as an enlightened body, which is a step ahead and progressive, has shown the way, and it's indeed a remarkable day for us.
All right, we'll come back to you for more, but Khushbu Jain, I'd like your reaction as well. And Malvika Rajkotia, they're saying that, she's waiting to see what the Bar Association says, what other members say. This order was given many hours ago. Have you managed to, hear what the reaction has been? Has there been some resentment over this order, given it's come today and so soon after this is the elections for the Bar Association?
See, if I have to speak personally, it's amazing. It's terrific. I would agree with my earlier panelists, and I think everybody would agree with that part, that this was something which would have been done long back and situation that we would have not been needed, that we need a reservation. But nonetheless, when we talk about politics, when we talk about higher judiciary, when we talk about higher posts which are there in other streams of businesses, that this has been very male dominated, or patriarchy, if I have to say, for that matter, and this requires a lot of other things along. So maybe this kind of move that has come up by the court, which will have reservations, this will, one, there have been a lot of reasons that it is good. One, the aspect that it will bring a viewpoint of women, which is very much required. And also the second, that we need the 50% which we have as a population, we need that voice to come on table and to understand those areas which get neglected because of you not being from that gender. So this is second. And third, this will also bring in the aspect where a lot of women will come in, and this will have more women to come in the next. And then very soon we'll have a situation that we would not need reservation. The one which we were talking about, that local bodies, after the reservation, the way number have increased of women representatives in the local bodies, the same way we'll see that we would not need reservations anywhere, including Supreme Court Bar Association. Coming to your second question, the second question that says that what are the viewpoints? As much as I have spoken to all my colleagues, all my peers,
Yes.
seniors, everybody around, everybody is super excited and thrilled about it. And you need the other sex and the representation in the court. And I have seen how my a lot of my colleagues have stood for elections, the Supreme Court Bar Association, at the same time the advocates AOR associations elections, and I've seen how that representation from the other side is being taken by the other sex, and it is amazing. There can be few people who might be, but that must be for the personal agenda and benefit. But overall, if I have to see, I think everybody is super excited about this part and happy about it.
Really, Malvika Rajkotia, has that been your experience as well? And, I was going through social media as one does, and to see what kind of reactions are there. And I saw some had commented, of course, it's the Supreme Court, so very carefully worded. One even going as far as to say that, this was not even something that was asked of right now. In fact, if you had to go for reservation, there should be SC/ST reservation instead, etc., etc. So I can imagine, given that, it must have been a shock, given that the elections are just around the corner on the 16th.
So it would surprise me if there was no resentment. Nobody likes to share power. So women today are making inroads, and obviously we are going to be treading on, toes, so to speak, and entering a space which is essentially a male domain. So we are not going to be received with great joy,
Okay.
Because so far the approach has generally been towards the women to say, well, you're good enough, you're doing fine. It's been patronizing. Now we are going beyond that and looking towards being equal. And so nobody's ever going to tell us
you
to our
say,
face.
being equal, because I have a friend in this, who's an advocate in the Supreme Court, and she was, she felt that she feels she's able enough, that they don't really need this crutch of reservation, etc. Of course, that comes from, a different place. But what would you say to something like that?
I agree with what your friend says, but
I wanted her to come on the show, but she didn't.
The reality is quite different. So far, we have had leading advocates, women who've stood run for president of the Supreme Court Bar Association, and unsuccessfully. And they've done it only bravely, knowing the outcome, which is that it is highly unlikely that it would happen. Contrast this to to Pakistan, for example. You had Asma Jahangir, who was president of the Supreme Court Bar Association in Lahore, without a quota. So, we are on gender issues somewhere. It's a complex gender issue.
Definitely a complex gender issue. We're also joined by Karuna Nandi, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court. Karuna Nandi, we were talking about the Supreme Court order today and the reactions, and I'd like to first get your reaction to the Supreme Court's order on reservation for women in the Supreme Court Bar Association.
I think it's excellent because the Supreme Court Bar Association, while it represents us, doesn't actually represent us in a way that it perhaps should. Because, for example, the Gender Sensitization Committee, that, doesn't just apply to the bar, but also applies to others. But there was no internal complaints committee until 2013, and it was by the Chief Justice of India, constituted by the Chief Justice of India by office order in November 2013, right? So I'm glad to say that the Bombay High Court Bar Association appears to have amended its bylaws in January 2024 and brought in 25% reservation for women. There comes a time when talent or representation, I mean, it's a political post to some extent, is not being recognized. Then the law must step in. And the law has stepped in here. And the law stepped in here after a number of resolutions were proposed and failed. And I think it's a very salutary move.
Right.
It's a move that should be mirrored across also in court. And
that's
indeed,
right. In fact, I wanted to ask that is there something we're going to now see across bar associations and also in the judiciary? What about that? Coming to that question about more women representation in the judiciary, if they have this in the bar association, could one day we have, this sort of quota or a certain number of judges having to be women in the judiciary?
That's exactly what I was coming to, Gargi Rawat. So, look, representation is a good in itself. It's important, it's a good in itself, and it's something that is really fundamental. Now, one would expect that in this time that we would have more women in bar associations, that we would have more women on the bench across the board. And given that that hasn't happened, I think it takes a toll on the quality of the services that are then provided, right? Like, if we don't have women in the police, if we don't have women on the bench, we don't have women as prosecutors, which is not to say that women are the only feminists, so that just having a woman is going to change in and of itself the quality of justice, right? But I think the right to be there is fundamental. Within this, I agree. I think somebody was saying that it's important to have not just women like, eminent women like Ms. Rajkotia, or women like me, but to have women who are not casted, who are not upper caste, and women who are not cishet. So I think that within this reservation there should be other kinds of acknowledgement and reservation as well.
All right. Well, right now it's the issue is this reservation currently for women. All men have criticized and said that there should be SC/ST reservation rather than women reservation. Yes, Malvika Rajkotia.
Yeah. See, what Ms. Nandi said is that they have a right. I don't think there's any dispute that there's a right. The work is for the opportunity. The purpose of the reservation doesn't create a right. There's no doubt that we have a right.
Yes.
Point is to create a platform of opportunity. That's all.
All right. Khushbu Jain, I'd like to get you also in here. With this women representation and with more women in the Bar Association, tell us, how do you think this is going to affect the legal practice and women who are at the Supreme Court?
I would say this is going to bring in, as rightly said by all the other two earlier panelists with me, that this will bring in an aspect of there are a lot of gender sensitized matter. There are issues which need a aspect or a purview or a viewpoint of women. So this will bring in a lot of those aspects, and we have seen how Supreme Court Bar Association has filed amazing judgments in the Supreme Court, challenge certain things as being the protector or protector of the Constitution. So those kind of issues also need that kind of an eye. I would again agree that we don't have men who don't think in that manner, but there are certain aspects which women will bring into a table, and we are 50% in the population, so we need that kind of representation coming in the decision making, in the representatives, not just here but everywhere. And you have seen in the past that how changes have come up. I'm again giving an example of local body, because we have seen how that change has brought in those issues in the forefront and how those have been tackled. And I think all of us are women over here on the board, and we would understand that how we understand the issues right from menstrual cycle leave, and we've seen how things have been changing. I mean, it's been passed, and not that women were not there in the Supreme Court Bar Association. We had good number of women there itself, but at the same time, giving this reservation will bring in that aspect that more women will come in, more women will have that aspect that okay, let me come in. And again, I'm repeating the part that this is
Sure.
nothing but to create a scenario where after 5 years, after 10 years, you don't need reservation at all. We have enough and more of women who would be feeling equal, and that scenario changes, that we don't have to fight with that patriarchy, or there is, those higher posts, those leadership posts, those higher positions in the corporate world do not just stay with the male, but also with the women, and at the same time then becomes the equal stance. About the say part, yes, there are a lot of issues which women can bring in, and that aspect, that color to a lot of issues will be understood by women, and they can add that to the table.
Right.
Guys, coming in here, what Ms. Jain has said is actually borne out by research, right? Which is that there was some Stanford research done on women's reservation in panchayats, and they found that once a woman had a reserved seat, that that seat, even when it became de-reserved, is something that a woman would be much more likely to be elected to. And Bar and Bench did a study in 2021 looking at how many women were being elected to bar councils, and it was only 2%. I mean, surely the time has come now.
Well, hopefully we will see a president of the Women's Supreme Court Bar Association. But we're also joined by Justice Gyan Sudha Mishra, former judge of the Supreme Court, finally with us. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us. And Justice Mishra, your reaction to the Supreme Court's order today about women reservation in the Bar Association?
It's definitely a very, very, very welcome and heartening verdict, because from my own experience, I can say that the mindset would change of the electorate in the apex body, which is supposed to be so enlightened and so, ahead of the times, because Supreme Court is the apex body with such huge output of the great minds, and there, if the discrimination is persisting in some way, that then the verdict has come as a rescue to remedy that situation. I can share, if you have some time, allow me some time, I can share from my experience.
Yes, ma'am, quickly if you
that
could. Yes.
in the good old days when I was quite actively participating in the bar elections, so I got to hear that if you are contesting for a smaller post, like if you are contesting as an assistant secretary, as a vice president, assistant treasurer, or anything which has to do with the assistant, then you are welcome. But you are not welcome on the key posts. So that was quite a startling revelation. So this verdict will definitely remedy the situation, will force our fraternity to think and to think objectively without bias, giving the 100% justice without fear or favor and without discrimination, gender discrimination, which we keep discussing. So to my mind, it's and it's in with what is happening in the Lok Sabha. But I'd love to hear the other speakers also, so that I can enlighten myself what is the...
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Never does someone tell a Supreme Court judge.
Okay, I was
go ahead. Yes. No, definitely. I think Justice Mishra, I would like to hear what the others have to say. And first, Karuna Nandi, if you could, comment. And thank you so much, Justice Mishra, for sharing that experience with us.
Today, when patriarchy is rising again and rolling back the gains that women have made, hacks are very much required. Reservation like this is such a hack. It's desperately needed, not just here, but across the board. including in courts, including in police, including in government, and very much in parliament. It's a salutary move, and we really appreciate Justices Suryakant and Justice Vishwanathan for this work.
Right, and you're talking about the posts, Justice Mishra, you're sharing about how just the smaller posts went to women, and now the post of the treasurer is going to be actually reserved for women. Amalvika Rajkotia?
No, that's a very good sign. But now we are going to have, let's watch the elections. We have a woman contender for the president's poll position, and let's see how the electorate reacts. That's the critical test.
And what kind of representation has there been so far in the Supreme Court Bar Association?
We've never had a president or anybody
said.
holding an important post. Never.
All right. All right. And Khushbu Jain, your comments and, what Justice Mishra shared with us, the fact that hopefully one day soon we are going to see a woman president in the Supreme Court Bar Association, and that this, this order by the Supreme Court will have a far-reaching effect.
They will not be far. It could be now.
See, I'll tell you something. This is something to do with that we want women to work, and we understand how capable they are when it comes to execution of the work. So they can do all the grunt work when it comes to, being an assistant to a powerful post, so that all the work can be done beautifully and can be executed beautifully, but we don't want to give them that power. So today is the situation where the winds are changing, and we are making sure that we are capable to do the work. Let us have the power also in our hand.
Absolutely. Just finally, back to you, Justice Mishra. And, so hopeful that one day we will have a woman president of the Supreme Court Bar Association. And also, going forward, this should trickle down to other bar associations and perhaps even in the judiciary one day?
Not that day.
Yes, why not? In fact, the start is already there in the judiciary, and our brothers are in the judiciary are very, very keen to have many women judges in the higher judiciary and other parallel forums. So, but I would also have to admit that merely because there would be reservation in the Bar Association of Women, that would contribute to increasing the women judges. That would be a bit like
no,
I would.
What I meant was perhaps we'll have reservation in the judiciary itself to ensure that their women are adequately represented in the judiciary as well. Because currently sitting women judges in the High Court, we have 111. Yes.
Yes, it will definitely contribute in changing the mindset, in accepting which is already started. But we haven't achieved the target. We haven't achieved what we should achieve. So every step, every molecule, every drop in the ocean of progress would contribute to the enlightenment of mind in every corner. Like, initially there were clients who would not like to engage women lawyers, excepting Bombay, Calcutta, Delhi. I mean, they were hesitant. So when that has gone, it's a very happy experience that very many women lawyers are arguing their matters in the court, in the apex court also, which was a very happy change, and it was a great realization. It was delighted to see what I had seen in my younger days and what I am now seeing, what I now watched in the Supreme Court. Very capable, very, tremendous ability to communicate themselves with such analytical ability. So, and this, that in every walk of life, in Parliament, in Supreme Court, in every walk of life, if they are going to have an adequate representation, definitely that mindset of discrimination would change. But I would like to add, which I have been advocating in several forums, that as a government council, as a standing council, as a solicitor general, as an attorney general, there also we must try to contribute, or rather encourage and appoint women lawyers also in the apex body. So that should not remain as a preserve of the male bastion. So I would love to have an attorney general. I would love to have a solicitor general also, if not let there be a rotation in them also, in there also. If they don't do well enough, they can be removed. But there is a welcome change because Pinky Anand became additional Solicitor General. That was a very happy change. So I am very positive about it, that every step would contribute in the progress and eradicating gender discrimination. And I also
All right.
compliment you that you took up this subject to discuss.
Well, thank you so much for that. Yes, on NDTV, these are issues that we like to, highlight and promote. And thank you so much to Justice Sudha Mishra there for joining us, and to all the other, women advocates who joined us on the program, and the Supreme Court's big push ahead for the bar body polls. And hopefully more steps will be taken. That's all the time I have. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.